How's it going, everybody? It's fig cutting season, and I wanted to do a quick tutorial and show you guys how I root my cuttings. Step number one is to clean the cuttings. I use a 3% hydrogen peroxide, do a 2-to-1 mix with water, so like 2 cups water, 1 cup hydrogen peroxide. Let them soak in there for maybe 15 minutes, and it'll clean them all off real good and get them ready for the rooting process. Might want to just rinse them with some clean water and scrub them down if there's anything sticking on there. You just want to get them good and clean before you put them in the whatever rooting medium you want to use. Some people use bleach, some people just use dish soap. You can pretty much, you don't want to burn them or anything. That's why bleach kind of scares me, but hydrogen peroxide seems to work. So this is how I do it, and then I'll take you over to step 2. All right, guys, now I'm outside. Show you my setup here. After I clean these cuttings off, make sure you let them dry good 30 minutes. Dry them off with a paper towel if you need to, if you want to hurry up. But anyway, the rooting medium I like to use is ProMix. This is BX. ProMix HP is actually probably the best one. High porosity is what the HP stands for. Basically, it's just got some more perlite, and you can add perlite to your potting mix if you want. It's really not necessary, but it does help. I've added some water to this, so you can see the consistency that you kind of want. You want it to hold its shape, but definitely not be able to squeeze water out. That means you've got too much water in there. You just want it to be damp. That's really where the sweet spot is for getting the cuttings to take root. Anyway, I like to use, so here's what I do, just because I do a bunch at a time. Put them in these like totes, and then use these 4-inch tall, they're called tree pots. You can get them at greenhousemegastore.com is where I get them. It's actually pretty much the only place I've seen them. But anyway, they're really good for rooting these cuttings. If you want to just do 1 or 2 at a time, I've done this before. You use just a cheap plastic cup and drill some holes in it, so that way you get drainage. It's really important to have that. Otherwise, you can just water them out and they'll just rot on you. But that's a good way just to do a few. But like I said, I do a bunch at a time, so I'll show you. I basically just fill the pot up, shake it down. You don't want it to be compacted, but you want it to be at least a little bit tight. For labeling purposes, you definitely want to keep track of, if you're doing a bunch of different kinds. I like to use Sharpie paint pens. They work well. I also do that on the cuttings themselves. Let's see, where'd I put that Teramo at? There it is. Especially if you're washing a bunch together, these paint pens work pretty well. They stick to the cutting, so it's a good thing to do. What you're looking for a good cutting is, this one's basically partially lignified. It's where they're in between green and brown. A brown cutting is more of like an older, I've got one to show you. This is an older wood. It'll still root, but they do take more time. A green cutting is like this tip of this Smith. They're a little harder to get to take root, but they still will root. I generally don't sell these ones, but something like this is what I found to be the best rooting size for a cutting. So healthy cutting, it's going to have these buds showing at the nodes. So each one of these little breaks in the stick itself, that's a node, and that's where you're going to get rooting coming from. So when you get the cutting itself, you might want to take a fresh cut, just basically like a 1/4 inch from this node, and that's where the roots are going to come out. So to stick the root in, you see people do this a lot. They put in the cutting upside down, and they're like, well, how can you tell? Right here is where the leaf is, and above the leaf is where you have the buds. So that's pointing up. The buds always point up. So bottom of the cutting has the leaf and then the buds for either the branch and the fig. So that's what those are showing. So basically you can just take this and stick it directly in there and you can be done. I like to take the extra measure of wrapping the tip with, where do I got it? Here it is, parafilm. So you take this and wrap the top of this cutting and it'll keep it from drying out. It's a good measure. You don't have to do it, but it definitely helps if you don't have time to really babysit these things. I like to just go ahead and leave these the way they are, maybe for a week, and then check on them. Overwatering is probably the biggest issue that people have with cuttings. They can take, 2 weeks, they can root out for you, or they can take a couple months. It just depends on the cutting and what you're rooting in. But I see people try to root in water. You can do it, but it's just a big issue trying to take it from the water then and put it in a different medium. People use coco coir, a bunch of different things, and then they won't continue to grow in that. Then you have to change the medium, and when you just start off with a normal potting mix, you can go straight to the ground with that, or up pot, and you'll never have issues. So yeah, that's how I do it, and it's been really pretty tried and true for me. So hey guys, I forgot to mention, before you put it in the medium, it's a good idea to go ahead and take scrapes on the sides of the nodes. That's going to create more area for where the roots are going to pop out. So here it is, wrapped up with the parafilm on top, ready to go in. I'll show you the finished product. All right guys, here they are all finished up in their happy little home. A couple things I forgot to mention. I do like to use a heating mat. It's not necessary, but it does kind of speed things up a bit. Also, see a lot of people using like humidity domes. It's totally not necessary. Just come back in here every week or so and just check. You want to keep the soil damp, not wet. Just add a bit of water and you're good to go. One other thing, it's really not necessary to use rooting hormone. Some people swear by it, but I definitely do not. Figs will root on their own without it. It's more of a hassle than anything, so I don't use it. Just keep it simple and you'll be successful. So good luck everybody. Thanks for watching.